So June 2024, paper 2FR. Let's find question 1. So write these numbers in order of size, start with the smallest. Okay, so the smallest of those will be 5, then 39, then 71, then 122, and then 150. And I would cross them out as you go to make sure that you've used every number. Part B, write these decimals in order of size. Again, start with the smallest. So we said before that for decimals, it's sometimes easier to line them up vertically, but making sure you line up the point. And then you can fill in any missing numbers with zeros. So it makes it easier to see what's going on. So I think we can see probably that this number is the biggest one because it's got the only one with a 3, so it's going to be at the end. If we look and see what else is going on, this number here is the only one with a 0 in the 10th column, so that's got to be the smallest number. So that's 0.074 is what we're going to start with. If we then look down that column, I've got 2 7s, a 3 and a 1, so this is the next smallest one. So that number is going to be next, and that's 0.13. I don't need the extra 0 I wrote on. Similarly, we can then see that this is the 3 in that column, so that will be the next smallest number. That's 0.37. And then I've got to decide between the two that have both got a 7 in the 10th column. Well, if we then look at the next column, at the hundredths, this one's got a 0, which is smaller than the 7. And also, my fault, I didn't look carefully. Look, this one is the one with the 0 at the front. This one's got a 3. So it's actually going to be 0.7 next, and then 3.77 last. And then we're asked to write in figures the number 5,084. So we've got 5,000. We don't have any hundreds, and then we've got 84. So we've got to make sure we've got that 0 in the right place there. And then part D, write down the value of the 3 in 1,324. So it's 300, or you can write 300 like that if you prefer. But 300 as a number is absolutely fine. So we've got a bar chart about the number of countries in each of the 5 continents, or each of the 5 continents, sorry, they haven't put Europe in. They've told you the total number of countries in Europe is 44, and you're asked to draw that information on. Now you will use a ruler and a pencil. Let me just, I'll use my ruler, but a colour so you can see what's going on. Your bar should be about the same width as the bars that they've got and should go up to 44. You can colour it in if you want to, but you don't have to, it's fine. As long as it's clear where your bar is. So then part B, write down the name of the continent with 23 countries. So 23 is about, well, it's halfway between this line, which is the 22 line, and the 24. So that's going to be North America. That is the country that we are going to write for that one. Which continent has 4 times as many countries as South America? Well, South America has 12. So we're looking for 4 times 12, which is 48. Which country has 48? Sorry, which continent? And you can look and see that that's Asia, has 48 countries. And then it says, part D, work out the sum of the total number of countries in Africa and the total number of countries in Oceania. So Africa is the biggest bar, and it's at this midpoint between 52 and 56, so that must be 54. And Oceania is at the midpoint between 12 and 16, so that's going to be 14. So 54 plus 14 is what we're looking at, which will give you 68 when you do that on your calculator. Question 3, we've got a number line and we're asked to write down the number with the arrow. So we're between 57 and 58, so 57 point something. And you can see that we've got 5 gaps. So it can't be going up in 0.1s, it must be going up in 0.2s. So that's going to be 57.2, 57.4, and then this one will be 57.6. And to draw an arrow for 240 degrees, you can see each of these big ones must be 10, because that will be 210, 220, 230, 240. So when you draw your arrow on, it's got to go directly to that one there. Okay, mine didn't do a very good job. I'm going to have a wobbly arrow instead to make sure it ends up in the right place. Okay, it must go to there. And then part C, write the number 0.786 correct to 2 decimal places. So 0.786, if we're going for 2 decimal places, we're chopping it off there. Because that 6 is bigger than 5, it means it's going to round us up. So we will get 0.79. Question 4. It's a quadrilateral because it's 4-sided, and we're part A asked for the mathematical name of this. This is a kite. It's a kite because these 2 sides are the same length, and these 2 sides are the same length. And if you were to put in the diagonals, they meet at right angles. And if you look at it kind of sideways on, it does look a bit like a kite that you would fly. So this diagram shows a 3D shape. What is the name of it? So you can see that it's got a triangle at the front, and that anywhere that you cut into it down here, you would still see that same triangle. And that means it's a prism. That's the definition of a prism. So this one is a triangular, can't spell, triangular prism. And then how many edges has this shape got? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 edges. Question 5. Mina has 5 litres of water in a bottle and some empty cups. She fills as many cups as possible with water from the bottle, and each cup has 280 millilitres of water. So 5 litres, to go from litres to millilitres, we have to times by 1,000. So that's 5,000 millilitres. So we're then going to do 5,000 divided by the 280 millilitres that she gets in each cup. And that gives me 17.9. So the question says how many cups she completely fills. So she doesn't manage as much as 18. Therefore, that will be 18 cups that she completely fills. So this first couple of questions here, you are literally going to use your calculator. So you're going to put 3.4 squared into your calculator, and you're going to get 11.56. Then the cube root is using that button, but you're just going to pop that into your calculator like that, because you're not going to know what it is otherwise. I certainly don't. And you get 72. So this thing is a single power of 7. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm dividing by 1. So each of those will cancel each other out. So I'm left with 7 to the power of 4. And then part D, I've got to put a set of brackets in each of these to make them correct. And it is a case of trial and error a little bit and put them in your calculator and see what happens. But if I do that, it does the 5 plus 3 first, which is 8, and then times by 2 is 16. I've got 10 take away 8 is 2, and then take away And 10 take away 6 in the bracket gives me 4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I've got basically take away 2 again, so that gives me the 0. Question 7. First 5 terms of the sequence, write down the next term. So that has gone up by 8, that's gone up by 8, that's gone up by 8, that's gone up by 8, so it's going to go up by another 8. So 29 add 8 will give me 37. How did I work my answer out? I added 8 to the previous term. If you look part B at all of the numbers, they are all odd numbers, and 326 is even. So all the numbers in the sequence are odd, and 326 is even, so it can't be in there. Question 8. Barsha buys some nails and some bolts. Each box of nails costs £2.60. Each pack of bolts costs £3.94. He buys 5 boxes of nails, 4 boxes of packs of bolts, and pays with a £50 note. How much change should he get? So that's the key thing, is we're looking for change. So we need to work out how much he pays and then how much money he gets back. So nails, 5 boxes at £2.60, and bolts, 4 packs at £3.94. So if we work those two numbers out, £13 for the nails and £15.76 for the bolts. So in total, when you add that up, you'll get £28.76. So his change, he paid with a £50 note, take away £28.76, gives you £34.24. Question 9. Simplify c times c times c, so that's 3 of them, so c cubed. And then 12d times 3e, so 12 times 3 is 36, and then de. Solve k over 4 equals 7, so it's k divided by 4, so we have to do the opposite, which is to times both sides by 4, so that will give me k equals 7 times 4, which is 28. Part D, solve this equation. So we know then that we want the letter on its own, so I've got to get rid of the minus 3. To get rid of minus 3, I do the opposite, so I add 3. So 2g equals 9. And then if I know what 2g's are, to find 1g, I divide by 2. And so g equals 4.5. Expand x brackets x minus 4. If you're comfortable doing it without the little grid, that's fine. But if you need the grid, x times x is x squared. X times minus 4 is minus 4x. So we put them together and get x squared, take away 4x. Part F, work out the value of p when y equals minus 3 and w equals 2. It's just really important that you put brackets around your numbers so that the negatives don't go astray. So 4 times minus 3 squared plus, and I would put a bracket around my positive number as well, it won't hurt. And literally make sure that you put that into your calculator exactly as we've written, and then you will get p is 38. If you don't get p is 38, you've missed your brackets out, and then it will give a strange answer. So brackets are really important on that one. Question 10. So to construct a square with sides of 7 centimetres, you're going to need to use your compass set to 7 centimetres, which is the length of that side. You're going to put your compass on the end here, and you're going to draw yourself an arc all around here. You're then going to do the same from this end, also set to 7 centimetres, and draw yourself a nice big arc. And where they meet, if you've done it properly, obviously I haven't because you can see that mine don't line up, but you should then find that point joins to the two parts of your square that you've already got and makes you a nice square. So it's your compass at 7 centimetres and an arc from both points, and then join where they cross to each end. Okay. Right, number 11. A cafe sells 4 different types of cake, and Nala is going to choose 2 different types of cake. What combinations can she choose? So she could have carrot with fruit, carrot with lemon, or carrot with Madeira. Fruit, she's already had fruit and carrot, so she could have fruit and lemon or fruit and Madeira. Lemon, she's already had lemon with carrot and lemon with fruit, so she could have lemon and Madeira. And that's all there are, because Madeira, we've already got all the options of Madeira with carrot, fruit and lemon. This two-way table gives information about flavours of ice cream sold on Saturday and Sunday, and we're asked to fill it in. So there's a few that we can fill in straight away. We could do this one and this one straight away. So we can do the total by adding 48, 31 and 41 together. So 48, 31 and 41. That will give us 48, 31 and 41. That gives me 120 to go in here. And then to find the total for Sunday, I can find it straight away, but I'm going to do it by subtraction because I know the total is 49. I know how much mint and how much vanilla, so I'm looking for how much chocolate, so I'm going to do it as a takeaway. So it's 49, take away 20, take away 13, which gives me 16 there. So now I've got those numbers, I can actually fill in the other numbers. So for Saturday chocolate, I can do 48 take away 16, which will give me 32. And then for Saturday total, I can do 120 take away 49, which will give me 71. Nala asks 100 students whether they prefer cake or ice cream. 33 of the students prefer cake. One of the students is chosen at random. Find the probability that they do not prefer cake. So to find how many people don't like cake, we've got to do 100 take away 33, which gives me 67. So the probability they don't like cake is 67 out of the 100 students we had altogether. So the size of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is 15 degrees. Work out the number of sides. So we have a formula for the exterior angles, which is literally 360 divided by the number of sides. So if I do 360 divided by 15, it will tell me how many sides this shape has, which is 24. So it's a 24-sided shape, which I'm not going to try and draw for you. So we were asked to draw a straight line. So we're going to draw ourselves a little table. And we want x values from -2 up to 3. Oops. And it tells me that y is 5 minus 2x. So here, in my calculator, I'm going to do 5 take away 2 times minus 2. And I've got to just be careful with my negatives there. As long as I do that, that'll be fine. And I'll get an answer of 9. And then for this one, and I'm going to do 5 minus 2 times minus 1, which will give me 7. And then I'm going to keep doing the same. So I've got 5 take away 2 times 0, which will give me 5. I've got 5 take away 2 times 1, which will give me 3. I've got 5 take away 2 times 2, which will give me 1. And then I've got 5 take away 2 times 3, which will give me -1. So if I then plot these points, when x is -2, y is 9. When x is -1, y is 7. Those are disappearing for some reason, so let's try that again. -2, 9, -1, 7, 0, 5, 1, 3, 2, 1, and 3, -1. You will obviously do those with a pencil in case you make a mistake, and then you'll use your ruler to join them up and try and make sure they go through your points rather than near your points like mine have. Question 14. We've got 3 people sharing some money. So Bilper gets 1/5 of it, Claudia gets 42%, and David gets the rest. And we are then told that the amount of money Bilper gets to the amount of money David gets is a ratio 1 to n, and we're asked to find that n. We need to know how much money each person gets first of all before we can do anything else. So Bilper gets 1/5 of the 1,200. So we do that on our calculator using our fraction button, and they get 240 euros. Claudia gets 42%. So again, you can just use your percentage button on your calculator, and Claudia gets 504. So to work out what David has, he has the 1,200, take away the amounts that the other two have, which gives him 456. So then we've got the ratio is Bilper to David, so that's 240 to 456. And it tells us in the question that we want 1 to n, so Bilper needs to be a 1. So what do we do to Bilper to get her to a 1? We divide by 240. We're going to do the same to this side. So we do 456 divided by 240, which gives me 1.9. So that value of n is 1.9. That's what we need for our answer. So we've got how many oranges in 30 different bags? And part A says what is the mode. So mode is the most common. So it's the one that there's most of. And if you look at that table, you can see there's 8 times that we have 12 oranges. So 12 is the modal number of oranges, because it's always a value of oranges in this case that we're interested in. And then part B, to find the mean, this is where we have to do our extra column. So we're going to do 11 times 7, 12 times 8, 13 times 7, 14 times 5, 15 times 1, and 16 times 2. And you can use your calculator to fill those in. And then we're going to add those up. So 77 plus 96 plus 91 plus 70 plus 15 plus 32 is 381. And we're going to add up our frequencies. So 7 plus 8 plus 7 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2, which hopefully does give us 30. So our mean is then the total number of oranges, which is 381, divided by how many bags, which is 30, which gives us 12.7 as the mean number of oranges in a bag. So question 16, footballs are made in a factory. On Monday, we had 375 footballs per hour for 8 hours. On Tuesday, we had 20% more footballs in total, and 300 footballs per hour were made in the factory. And we're asked how many hours did it work on Tuesday. So on Monday, we need to work out how many footballs were made altogether. So there were 375 per hour for 8 hours. So that gives us 3,000 footballs that were made on Monday. On Tuesday, it tells us that there were 20% more. So if I find 20% of my 3,000, I get 600. So it's 600 more. So altogether, that's 3,000 plus 600 is 3,600 footballs. And it tells you on Tuesday there were 300 footballs per hour. Oops. So 3,600 divided by 300 for each hour is 12. So it was 12 hours of work that they had to do on Tuesday. Question 17. Write 1,400 as a product of its prime factors, showing you're working clearly. So this is our factor tree. So because it's such a big number, I would be looking to say, I know it divides by 100. And what do I times it by to make 1,400? I times it by 14. 14 on your calculator you can do as 2 times 7, and they are both prime numbers, so you're going to stop. 100 I would do is 10 times 10. You could do others, but 10 times 10 is a good one. 10 is then 2 times 5, which are prime, and 10 is 2 times 5, which is prime. So I've got 1, 2, 3 2s, so that's 2 to the power 3, 2 5s, so 5 squared, and then times 7. There are trees that will look different that will still give you the same answer, so it doesn't matter if you didn't start the same way. But if you do 2 and 700 as your start, you'll get a very wonky tree, which just takes up more space, that's all. Question 18. Describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. Well, this is going to be a translation because it's the one that moves, it slides, it hasn't turned or flipped over. And how far has it moved? Well, if you pick this corner, it's gone 1, 2, 3 spaces across, so 3 to the right, and then it's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. So we've got to put that in what we call our vector form, so it went 3 across and 5 down. On the grid above, rotate shape A 180 degrees about -1, 0. So -1, 0 is here. You will be asking for tracing paper at this point. And it will come there. Yeah, that's right. But that's tricky without tracing paper. Okay, so you will get tracing paper in your exam if you ask for it. Question 19. We've got 4 numbers in ascending order, so you know that x is smaller than y and y is smaller than 15. You know they have a median of 12.5 and a range of 4. So let's start with the one that's easiest. The range of 4. Range is the biggest minus the smallest. So the biggest is 15, the smallest is x, and the answer is 4. So 15 take away what equals 4? Well, that means that x has to be 11. So we've now got 11, 11, y and 15. And then it also tells us that the median is 12.5. So the median is the middle of these two numbers, and that is 12.5. And if you remember, when you find the median, you do the two numbers added together and divided by 2 has to equal 12.5. Solving that equation, I've got to get rid of that fraction on the bottom, so I've got to times both sides by 2. So that gives me 11 plus y equals 25. I want the y on its own, so I've got to take the 11 away, and that gives me y equals 14. So down on my answer line then, I know that x is 11 and y is 14. The y is harder, but x isn't too bad. So even if you can't find your way all the way through to find y, you can have a go at doing x. Right, so we've got another set question. We've got our universal set is the numbers 1 to 10. A is the factors of 6. So factors of 6 are numbers that go into 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 6. Prime numbers are those numbers that only divide by themselves and by 1. So 2, 3, 5, and 7 from the list of numbers you've got there. So A union B, that's what that one means. That's anything in A or B. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. So everything in A, 1, 2, 3, and 6, and then the extra ones from B, which are 5 and 7. Anything that is not in A, so A dashed is not in A. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 in A, so I've got 4, 5, I don't want 6, but I do want 7, 8, 9, 10. Harpreet states that the intersection of A and B is the empty set. She's incorrect. Why? Well, if you look at A and B, they have 2 and 3 in common. 2 and 3 is in both A and B. So she's incorrect because 2 and 3 are in set A and set B. C is a set with 4 members, so the intersection of A and C has 2 members, and the intersection of B and C has 2 members, and they don't have any in common. So if they don't have any in common, it cannot be 2 and 3. So the intersection with A must be the 2 members. So if I drop A down here, A is 1, 2, 3, and 6, and B was 2, 3, 5, and 7. So set C has got to have some numbers in that set A has, but it can't have any that are also in set B. So it can't have the 2 and the 3 because they're in both. So it's got to have the 1 and the 6 from A, and then it's got to have the 5 and the 7 from B. So the 4 members in set C in numerical order are 1, 5, 6, and 7. Question 21. We've got a design for a badge, which is a circle inside a square. And we know that the area of the square is 81. And we're asked to find the length of wire that will be needed to make the square and the circle. So we know something about the area, but we're asked for length, which is to do with perimeter. So we're going to have to kind of work a bit backwards. So if I know that the area of the square equals 81, then I know working backwards, if I have x as the side of the square, then it's got to be the square root of 81. So it's got to be 9 because x times x would have to be 81. So that means that the side of the square is 9 centimetres, and that's also the diameter of the circle. Yeah, because it goes all the way through the centre of the circle. So if we want to find the circumference of the circle, circumference is pi times the diameter. So we are going to, on our calculator, do pi times 9, which, oops, press the right button, it usually helps. That's going to be 28.3 centimetres. So that's how much wire I'd need to make the circle. So to get the total wire, I need the circle plus 4 sides of the square. So 4 times 9. Which gives me 64.3, which is 3 significant figures because it's 3 numbers there. So 64.3 is what I need. Right. So solving this equation. It's not a very nice one, but we can do it. First thing we need to do is get rid of the divide by 3 on this side. So to get rid of divide by 3, we do the opposite. So we times by 3. So I've got 2f is 3 lots of 4f minus 17. Now I'm going to need to multiply my brackets out on this side. So you can either use your eyebrows, or over here, if you want to use the grid, you can do that. 3 times 4f is 12f. 3 times minus 17 is minus 51. So I get 2f equals 12f take away 51. I'm actually going to switch that over because I prefer having my bigger numbers on the left-hand side. It's an equals, so I can do that. I want to collect my f's on the side where I've got most f's, which is the left. So I want to get rid of my 2f's. I'm going to do that by taking 2f away from both sides. So that gives me 10f take away 51 equals nothing. Now, I want the f's on their own, so I need to get rid of the take away 51, which I'm going to do by adding 51 to both sides. So I get 10f equals 51. If I know what 10f's are, I can find 1 by dividing by 10. And so f equals 5.1. Now this question quite clearly said show algebraic working, so if you'd have done it by trial and error you wouldn't have got the marks anyway, but trying to find a decimal by trial and error is quite tricky. Part B is sneaky. We've looked at this in a different paper, but anything to the power 0, however complicated it looks, is just 1. So literally the answer to that is 1. Right, on part C, simplify. We're going to deal with our numbers, our A's and our H's separately. So for our numbers, it's a division. 12 divided by 4 gives me 3. For the A's, I've got a to the power 4, and then if I've got an a without anything, it's to the power 1. And if we remember, when you've got a divide, you take the powers away. So 4 take away 1 is 3, so that'll be a to the power 3. And then for the h's, I've got h to the power 6 and h to the power 2. So when I take 6 take away 2, that'll give me h to the power 4. And that's my final answer. And then factorising fully, so I'm going to do my numbers, and then my x's, and then my y's separately. So I look at 12 and 20, and I'm trying to find the biggest possible number that 12 and 20 will both divide by. And in this case, that will be 4. They will both divide by 2, but 4 obviously is bigger, so they'll divide by 4. I then look at the x's, and I want to look for the smaller power. So in this case, that's x to the power 3 in the second term. And similarly for the y's, I'm looking for the smaller power. And remember, if there is no power like there is here, that's the same as y to the power 1. So that's smaller. So y is going there. So that's what's outside. Now, to find how the numbers go inside, you're going to divide the numbers by the number outside. So I'm going to do 20 divided by 4 will give me 5. And then 12 divided by 4 will give me 3. Now, looking at the letters for the x's, so x to the power 5 divided by x to the power 3, we know we take powers away. So 5 take away 3 gives me x squared. And I've used the whole x cubed up, so I don't have an x term in the second one. Similarly, for the y's, I've used the whole single y up, so I don't have a y in the first term. And then y to the 4 divided by y to the 1 gives me y cubed. So my final answer is 4x cubed y outside my brackets, and then 5x squared plus 3y cubed inside my brackets. Question 23 is another one using these indices. So if we look at the top first of all, when we're timesing, we add our powers. So minus 2 add 5 gives me 3. So that's 3 to the power 3 over 3 to the power 10. Now I've got to do a division, and when I do a division, I subtract my powers. So 3 take away 10 is minus 7. So 3 to the power 7 is 3 to the power n. So therefore my n must be minus 7. Question 24. In a sale, all normal prices are reduced by 17%. The sale price of the fridge is 6,225 rupees. Work out the normal price. So I've got the sale price. I want to find the 100% price. I'm going backwards. I've taken 17% off, so that gives me 83% is 6,225. So to go back the other way, I have to divide by 83%. And if I divide by 83%, so 2025 divided by 83% gives me 7,500. So originally my fridge cost me 7,500 rupees. Question 25. Write 6.04 times 10 to the 5 as an ordinary number. Oh, sorry, don't know why that disappeared. Come back here. So 6.04. So I'm going to move my decimal point 5 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fill in any gaps with zeros, but do rewrite it to make sure you haven't got a decimal point loitering around that you shouldn't have. And then similarly, going back the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, to be able to count. The decimal point's got to go after the 7 because it's the only way I can have a number between 1 and 9. So the decimal point has moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. So it will be 7 times 10, and because it's a small number, it's to the power of minus 5. Part C, you're going to put that exactly as it is into your calculator using your times 10 to the power button and your fraction button. And it will probably give you an answer, we'll see in a second, isn't in standard form, yes. So when I plug that as it is into my calculator, it gives me 200,000. And because the question says give your answer in standard form, I've then just got to turn that answer back into standard form. So the point's got to be after the 2, so it's moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. So I've got 2 times 10 to the 5. Right, last question. I think, yes, good. This is a trig question. So if you're not doing trig, you can just leave this question. So we've got a hexagon because it's got 6 sides. We've got angle BCF, they've shown us is 30, and we've got 3 parallel lines. And we're asked to find the area of this shape. So we've got the rectangle at the bottom, which, to be honest, even if you're not doing trig, you can do this part and it will get you a mark. So that's 4.7 and 23. So the area of that bit is 4.7 times 23, which is 108.1. Now, in order to find the area of this bit at the top, this is a trapezium. And it's a trapezium with an 11 at the top and a 23 at the bottom. We know that. But I need to know its height from the formula of my trapezium. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop off a triangle at the right hand end. We're going to look at this triangle here. And if I look at that triangle there, which I'm going to draw out, I know that's 5, that's 30, that's a right angle, and this is going to be the height that I want to know. So what do I know about this triangle then? The 5 is the hypotenuse and h is the opposite. So of all my trig things, the one that involves opposite and hypotenuse is sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. And if I'm trying to find the opposite, then I'm doing sine times hypotenuse. So my height is sine 30 times 5, which will come out to be, not what I just typed into my calculator, that's better, 2.5. So now I've got a trapezium where I know this is 23, this is 11, and this is 2.5. So the formula for the area of a trapezium they give you, and it is a half A plus B H, where A and B are your 2 parallel sides and H is your height. So we can literally plug those numbers in. It's a half 23 plus 11 times 2.5. And if you plug that into your calculator just as it is, then you will get an answer of 42.5. So the total area of this shape then is the rectangle at the bottom, which was 108.1, plus that trapezium, which is 42.5, which gives you 150.6 centimetres squared. It's quite a tricky question, that one, but I would expect it to be because it's the last question on the paper. But even if you're not sure about trig, you can still find the area of the triangle, which would get you a mark.